The alien forest was quiet, too quiet. Even the wind seemed afraid to blow. Tall black trees stood like statues, their twisted branches reaching toward the sky. Strange glowing bugs floated in the air, lighting the path like tiny stars. Jake, a human explorer, moved carefully through the thick grass. His boots made soft crunching sounds on the forest floor. He had come to this alien planet alone, looking for rare plants and peaceful silence. But something felt wrong today. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was heavy, like a warning. Then he heard it. A small voice, full of fear and pain, echoed through the trees. "Human, help! Please, help my mom, she's caught. She's trapped in a snare." Jake froze. His heart jumped. That voice wasn't human. But it spoke in his language, a child's voice. A voice full of panic. He looked around. Nothing moved. Then from the bushes, a small creature stumbled out. She looked like a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Her skin was soft blue, her eyes big and glowing. She wore nothing but torn cloth, and her tiny hands were shaking. Her face was dirty, and there were scratches on her arms and legs. "Please, human. My mom is going to die." She cried again, running to him. Jake kneeled down slowly. "Calm down," he said gently. "Tell me what happened." The little girl grabbed his arm. "There's a wire trap. She stepped in it, and now she's hanging. She can't breathe." Jake's mind raced. He had seen alien traps before. Some were cruel, made for pain, not hunting. "Where is she?" he asked. "Just a little further, please." No one else came. "They ran away." The girl sobbed. Jake looked into her eyes. She was telling the truth. There was no time to waste. He stood up. "Show me." The girl turned and ran into the trees. Jake followed her, his eyes scanning every shadow. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The trees grew closer together. Strange animal sounds echoed in the distance. After 10 minutes, the girl stopped near a deep ravine. Jake looked down and his stomach turned. There, hanging between 2 trees, was an alien woman. She was tied up in a horrible snare, metal wires wrapped around her waist and legs, lifting her off the ground. Her head hung low. Blood dripped from her body. Her chest moved slowly. She was still alive, but barely. "Mom!" the girl screamed. Running to her, Jake jumped down beside her. "Don't touch anything yet," he said. "It might get worse if we pull without thinking." He took out his scanner and checked the trap. His face grew serious. "This isn't a normal trap," he muttered. "It's designed to kill slow. The more she moves, the tighter it gets." He pulled out a small cutting tool and studied the wires. One wrong move and the wires would snap back and cut deeper. He needed to be smart. "Fast, but careful." "Can you hold her hand?" Jake asked the girl. "Talk to her. Keep her awake." The girl nodded and held her mother's hand. "Mom, it's okay. The human is here. He's helping. Stay with me." Jake got to work. He cut the first wire carefully, then the second. Sweat rolled down his face. His hands moved fast, but his eyes stayed sharp. "2 more to go," he whispered. Then he heard something. A soft crack like someone stepping on a branch. Jake turned his head quickly. The girl looked up, eyes wide with fear. "Someone's here," she whispered. Jake stood up slowly and looked around. Between the trees in the darkness, he saw them, 2 tall shadows, eyes glowing orange. They were watching, waiting. "Don't move," Jake said quietly. "Stay behind me." The girl grabbed his shirt. "They're the ones who set the trap," she said, her voice shaking. "They laughed when she screamed." Jake's jaw clenched. He stepped in front of the girl, placing himself between her and the figures in the shadows. "Show yourselves," he shouted. The 2 shadows moved forward. They were alien hunters, wearing bone armor and carrying long, sharp weapons. They looked at Jake like he was a joke. One of them smiled. "What are you doing, human?" he asked coldly. That one's ours. Just a little game. Jake tightened his grip on his tool. She's dying, he said. This is no game, the hunter laughed. Then let her die. Jake's eyes narrowed. Not today. He turned back and quickly cut the last two wires. The woman fell into his arms, weak and bleeding but free. The child cried out with joy, but the hunters didn't look happy. Now you've made a mistake. Human, the other one growled. Jake stood up, holding the mother over his shoulder, his free hand ready to fight. I've made worse, he replied. Asterisk. Air felt heavier now. Jake stood between the chained mother, the trembling child, and two alien hunters with dead eyes. The sharp scent of metal and blood filled his nose. His muscles tightened as the first hunter stepped closer, dragging a cruel-looking blade across a tree trunk just to hear it scrape. The second hunter smiled wide and said in a mocking voice, "Hero human, how sweet." Jake didn't answer. He turned slightly, just enough to check the alien woman behind him. Her skin was pale now. Her chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. She was running out of time. Jake spoke low to the child. Keep pressure on her wound, just like this. He pressed a cloth gently against the mother's bleeding waist and handed it to the girl. The child nodded, tears still streaming. Her hands trembled, but she obeyed. Then Jake stepped forward and faced the hunters. I'm not looking for trouble. Let me help her, and I'll walk away. One of the hunters laughed, spinning his blade once. You're already in trouble, human. Suddenly, he lunged. Jake was ready. He dodged left, grabbed a branch, and swung it hard into the attacker's chest. The hunter fell back with a grunt. Jake didn't wait. He turned and ran back to the mother. The snare wires were still wrapped around her legs and hips, cutting deep into the flesh. Blood ran down and pooled beneath her. Jake took out a thin plasma cutter and adjusted the heat. He had only seconds. The wires had sensors. Cut too fast, and they might tighten again. Cut too slow, and she'd bleed to death. The child whispered, "Please save her." Jake focused, his hands steady now despite the chaos. First cut FZZZT. Clean line through the thigh wire. Second cut FZZZT. Near the lower back. Careful not to hit bone. He moved fast, wiping sweat from his forehead with his arm. His ears stayed alert. He could still hear the hunters regrouping. Then, "You dare touch our toy?" A hunter roared behind him. Jake turned just in time to block a blow with his arm. Pain shot through his elbow as he fell backward. His plasma cutter hit the dirt and rolled away. The hunter kicked him in the side, sending him tumbling across the ground. Jake groaned, coughing. Blood dripped from his lip. The child screamed, "Don't hurt him." But the hunter just grinned and raised his blade. Then, something unexpected happened. The chained mother, barely conscious, moved. Her hand twitched. Her fingers curled around a sharp rock near her. Jake saw it. So did the child. "Mom?" The girl gasped. The alien woman used all her fading strength. With a groan, she raised the rock and threw it weakly, hitting the hunter. In the leg. It didn't hurt him, but it distracted him just long enough. Jake used that moment to roll over, grab a handful of dirt, and throw it in the hunter's eyes. The alien screamed. Blind for a second, Jake leapt forward, tackled the hunter to the ground, and grabbed the plasma cutter from the floor. No more games. He sprinted back to the woman, cutting the final two wires in quick motion. Her body dropped into his arms, limp but breathing. Jake lifted her carefully. She was light, far too light, like she hadn't eaten properly in days. "Can she make it?" the child asked in a shaking voice. "Only if we run, now." Jake turned toward the trees. But the hunters were blocking the path. He scanned the forest quickly, then spotted a slope nearby, a steep one, full of rocks and roots. Dangerous. "But it might be the only way out," he whispered. "Hold tight." And then he ran mother in. His arms, child at his side straight for the slope. The hunters shouted behind them. But Jake didn't stop. They leapt down the hill, slipping, falling, rolling. The child screamed. Jake twisted to protect the mother from the fall. They hit the ground hard, but they were alive. Jake gasped for breath, looking up. The hunters didn't follow. They stayed at the top of the hill, watching, snarling. Jake didn't care. He looked at the mother's face, still breathing. Then he looked at the child. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "You saved us." Jake smiled weakly. "Not yet. We need shelter. And something to stop the bleeding." The child pointed. "There's a cave, not far. We used to hide there when it rained." Jake stood up, carrying the mother. "Lead the way." As they disappeared into the trees, Jake knew this was just the beginning. The rain started without warning. Thick drops fell from the dark, alien sky as Jake carried the wounded alien mother through the twisting trees. Behind him, the little girl followed quietly, her eyes wide and scared. She clutched his jacket tightly, afraid to lose sight of the only person who had helped her. Jake's arms burned from carrying the woman so far, but he didn't slow down. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin was ice cold. She needed help soon. They finally reached the cave. It was hidden behind thick vines and looked small from the outside. But once inside, it opened into a dry, quiet space with stone walls and a smooth floor. The air smelled damp but clean. Jake laid the mother gently on the ground. The child rushed to her side. Mom, please wake up," the girl whispered, pressing her face against her mother's chest. Jake checked her pulse again. Still there. Barely. He opened his backpack, pulled out his emergency medkit, and began cleaning her wounds. The cuts were deep. Alien flesh was tougher than human skin, but even she couldn't survive much longer without help. He used a wound-sealing foam and wrapped her legs in pressure bands. It wasn't perfect, but it might keep her alive for a while. Jake finally sat back, his hands bloody, his face pale. "She'll live for now," he said softly. The child looked at him, her lip trembling. "Will she wake up?" "I don't know yet," Jake answered honestly. For a moment, there was silence, just the sound of rain hitting the trees outside. Then a click. Jake's eyes snapped to the cave entrance. Another click. Then another. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Getting closer. Jake jumped to his feet, grabbing his knife. The child crawled behind her mother, hiding in fear. A voice echoed through the rain. "Human, where are you hiding?" Jake clenched his jaw. The hunters had returned. Outside the cave, the two alien hunters walked through the forest with cold smiles. They had followed the trail of blood and broken branches with ease. Now they were close. One of them sniffed the air. "He's near." The other licked his blade. "I told you he'd run. But he won't get far." Back in the cave, Jake whispered to the child, "Stay behind me, no matter what." He turned off his light and waited in the darkness, blade ready. The cave entrance moved. The vines were pushed aside. A tall figure stepped in. Jake didn't wait. He lunged forward, slashing fast. The blade cut across the hunter's arm. The alien roared and swung his weapon, missing Jake by inches. Jake grabbed a rock and threw it into the second hunter's face as he stepped in. The alien stumbled, giving Jake just enough time to push. Both out of the cave entrance. They rolled in the mud outside, struggling in the rain. Jake was smaller but faster. He used his weight and speed to land quick hits, but the hunter was strong. The second one charged toward the cave. Inside, the child screamed, "No!" But something amazing happened. The mother, still weak, opened her eyes. Her voice was just a whisper, but strong enough to speak one word: "Stop." The second hunter froze. Maybe it was shock. Maybe fear. But her voice, though soft, carried power. Jake heard it too. With a final push, he shoved the first hunter against a tree and grabbed a sharp branch. He pointed it at the hunter's throat. "Stay down." Jake growled. The hunter looked at him with hate, but he didn't move. Jake stood, breathing hard, clothes soaked, hands shaking. He walked slowly back to the cave, expecting to find disaster. But instead, he saw the mother's eyes open, and her weak hand holding her daughter's tightly. "Thank you," she whispered to Jake. He knelt beside her, relief flooding through him. "You're awake." But before anyone could celebrate, the second hunter shouted outside, "You think this is over, human? We'll return, and next time we bring the pack." Jake turned to the mother. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. "Then we move now," Jake said. "We're not safe yet." The child helped lift her mother. Jake took her other arm. Together, they disappeared deeper into the forest, toward the mountains, away from the hunters. But they all knew one thing. The hunters would return, and next time, it would be war. The rain had stopped, but the danger hadn't. The small group moved through the forest under the gray light of dawn. The alien mother leaned heavily on Jake's shoulder, her legs barely able to move. The little girl walked beside them, holding her mother's hand with both of hers, refusing to let go. Every step was a fight. Every breath was a battle. Jake kept his eyes on the trees around them. His senses were sharp now. He knew the hunters were following, not close, but not far either. They were being watched. But Jake had a plan. They reached a dry hill with large rocks and thick bushes. A narrow path led to a small cave that curved deep inside the land. "We rest here," Jake said, helping the mother sit against the wall. "They won't find us right away. We have a few hours, maybe less." The mother closed her eyes and nodded. She was burning up with fever. Her wounds were starting to swell. Jake opened his medkit again, but most of his supplies were gone or used. He had only one dose of anti-infection serum left. It wasn't enough. The mother began to shake. Her body trembled as the fever grew stronger. The girl looked at Jake with tears in her eyes. "She's getting worse. What do we do?" Jake touched the woman's forehead. It was burning hot. Her breathing was fast and uneven. "If we don't bring her fever down soon, she won't survive," he said softly. The girl sobbed. "There must be something. You're a soldier. You're human." "Humans always know what to do." Jake looked at the forest. His eyes narrowed. "There is one thing," he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small map, a digital scan of the area. "There's a river nearby," he said. "And near the river, there's a kind of alien plant that cools the blood. Locals call it skyroot. It's rare. It only grows where the moonlight touched during the eclipse season." The child stood up fast. "Then I'll get it." "No," Jake said firmly. "It's too dangerous. That river is where the hunters drink." The child didn't care. "I don't want my mom to die." Jake knelt and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll go. You stay here and keep her warm. If I'm not back in 2 hours, hide, no matter what." She nodded slowly, wiping her face. Jake turned to the mother one last time. Her lips moved, barely speaking. "Thank you," Jake whispered. "Don't thank me yet. Stay alive until I return." An hour later, Jake moved like a ghost through the trees, stepping softly, holding his blade low. The sound of running water grew louder. He followed it until he saw the river clear and fast. Moonlight plants glowed near the edge. Long blue stems with silver leaves, skyroot. He found it, but he wasn't alone. Across the river, just beyond the fog, one of the hunters stood helmet off, drinking from his water bag, his weapon resting on a rock. Jake froze. He couldn't fight. Not now. One noise and he'd be dead. So he dropped flat and crawled through the mud, inch by inch, like a soldier in training. He reached the plant, cut the stem slowly, then reached for one more. A snap. His foot hit a twig. The hunter looked up. "Who's there?" he growled. Jake grabbed the 2 skyroot plants and ran. The hunter roared and chased him. Crashing through the forest like a wild animal, Jake ran hard, heart pounding, dodging trees and jumping roots. He could hear the hunter closing in. Fast. Too fast. Then Jake saw it, a deep pit hidden under vines. He jumped over it at the last second. The hunter didn't see it in time. Crash. The alien fell into the hole with a scream, his leg twisting as he landed. Jake didn't stop. He kept running, clutching the skyroot like gold. Back at the cave, the girl held her mother tightly, whispering to her, "Please, please don't leave me." Then Jake rushed in, muddy, bloody but alive. "I've got it," he shouted. He crushed the plant, mixed it with water from his flask, and gently poured it into the mother's mouth. Then he placed the silver leaves on her chest and wrapped her in his jacket. "Come on, come on," he whispered. Minutes passed. Then her shaking slowed. Her breathing steadied. She opened her eyes, clearer this time. The girl gasped, "Mom!" The alien woman weakly lifted her hand and touched her daughter's face. Jake sat back, finally letting himself breathe. She was alive, but before he could rest, his radio buzzed with static. A deep voice came through. "You got lucky, human. But next time we bring fire." Jake looked toward the cave entrance. The fight wasn't over. The cave was quiet, but the fear inside it was loud. Jake sat by the entrance, holding a broken piece of pipe like a weapon. His body ached. His eyes refused to close. He hadn't slept in 2 days. Every sound outside made his heart beat faster. Inside, the alien mother lay still, her chest rising and falling slowly. Her fever had gone down, but she was still weak, too weak to move. The little girl stayed by her side, gently wiping her mother's forehead with a damp cloth. The girl looked at Jake. "She's breathing better. But why isn't she waking up?" Jake sighed. "She lost too much blood. The skyroot helped her survive. But now her body needs strength, real food, clean water, rest." The girl's eyes filled with worry. "We don't have food." Jake nodded. "And if I leave this cave, the hunters will find us. They're out there, watching, waiting." A long silence followed. Then the little girl did something unexpected. She stood up and tightened her ragged shoes. "I'll go," she said softly. Jake blinked. "What?" "I'll go find food. I know where to look. My mother showed me the paths when I was little. I can move quietly. I'm small. They won't see me." Jake shook his head. "It's too dangerous." "But you can't leave. She needs you here," the girl said, pointing to her mother. "And I don't want her to die while you're gone." Jake hesitated. She was right. If the hunters returned and he wasn't here to protect them, it would be over. Still, letting a child walk into danger alone. His voice was low. "Are you sure?" The girl nodded. Her eyes didn't shake. Jake placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then listen to me. Go to the river's edge, but don't get close. Look for the red roots under the trees. They're full of sugar and safe to eat. And if you see or hear anything strange, you run. Run like lightning. Promise me." "I promise." He gave her a small knife and his wrist radio. "Press the green button to talk. I'll be listening." The girl gave her mother one last hug and stepped outside the cave. Jake watched her disappear into the trees, and suddenly, the forest felt colder, deeper in the forest. The little alien girl moved like a shadow. She stepped over roots and ducked. Under branches, she didn't speak. She didn't breathe loud. She remembered her mother's lessons. "The forest listens, little one. If you respect it, it hides you." She reached the river without being seen. Red root plants grew beneath the wet bark of crooked trees. She smiled, but then her smile vanished. Footprints, huge, fresh footprints in the mud, with claw marks beside them. The hunters had been here. Suddenly a growl echoed nearby. Not close, but not far either. The girl crouched low and began picking the roots quickly. Her hands moved fast, and her heart beat faster. She filled a small sack with food and turned to leave. Then snap. She stepped on a dry stick. A second later, she heard it, breathing. Heavy. Slow. Behind her. She didn't look back. She ran through mud. Through vines, through pain. A deep roar followed her. The sound of something massive giving chase. Her small feet slipped, but she didn't fall. She leapt over a rock, ducked under a branch, and ran until her lungs burned. Then she reached for the radio. "Jake! Jake! Something's chasing me!" Jake's voice cracked back. "Where are you?" "I'm near the sharp rocks, the place where the tree glows blue." Jake cursed under his breath. He knew the place. He jumped to his feet and grabbed his weapon. "Keep running. I'm coming to you." At the glowing tree, the girl stumbled into the clearing, panting hard. The creature chasing her stopped at the edge of the trees. It was huge, not a hunter but a wild forest beast. 4 legs, bone horns, yellow eyes. It stalked her slowly, like a cat playing with its prey. She tripped and fell. Her leg was bleeding. The beast roared. Then crack. A blast of light shot from the trees. The creature shrieked. Jake appeared from the shadows, firing a stun pulse from his old rifle. "Get away from her." The beast turned and ran, vanishing into the woods. Jake rushed to the girl and picked her up. "You okay?" She nodded, tears falling. "I got the food." He smiled. "You did more than that. You proved you're braver than most adults I know." They returned to the cave together. The girl's leg was wrapped, the roots boiled, and the mother was fed. And for the first time, the mother opened her eyes fully and whispered with strength, "You saved us." Jake and the girl both smiled, but their moment of peace wouldn't last. That night, a red signal flared in the sky above the trees. The hunters had called for backup. Asterisk. The sky turned red, not from the sunset, but from a hunter's flare. Jake saw it from the cave entrance, rising like blood through the trees, burning high above the forest canopy. "They've signaled others," he said grimly. Behind him, the alien mother sat up slowly. Her strength was returning, but her legs were still weak. She looked at the sky with fear in her eyes. "They will come now. Not 2, not 3. A full pack." The little girl clutched her mother's arm. "What do we do?" Jake stared at the flare for a long moment, then turned around with calm fire. In his eyes, "We run, right now." Moments later, Jake carried a satchel with their last supplies. The mother leaned on him heavily. The child walked beside them, holding her mother's hand. The forest was darker now, the wind colder, but the silence was gone. Far behind them, they could hear the horns. Low, distant, terrifying. Jake knew what it meant. The hunters were moving. "They'll chase us until we stop breathing," the mother whispered. "Then we don't stop," Jake replied. They crossed through thorn paths and slid down muddy slopes. Jake's arm bled from scratches. The mother coughed. The child's legs shook, but they didn't stop. They were running for life. The broken bridge. After 2 hours, they reached a ravine. A wide gap stood between 2 cliffs. A broken bridge, half destroyed, swayed in the wind. Jake cursed under his breath. This was our way out. The mother looked behind them. "If we stay, we die." Jake stepped onto the first plank. It creaked but held. He tested the ropes. "Weak, but maybe strong enough for one at a time. I'll go first." "Then pull her across with this rope," Jake said, handing it to the child. He crossed carefully, every plank threatening to snap. At the end, he tied the rope around a thick tree. "Send her now." The child kissed her mother's hand and helped her step onto the bridge. The wind howled louder. The mother moved slowly, 1 step, then another. Then snap. One of the planks cracked. She screamed and grabbed the rope. Jake shouted, "Hold on." The child screamed, "Mom." Jake pulled hard, using all his strength. The bridge shook wildly, but inch by inch. She moved at last. Jake grabbed her arms and pulled her to safety. Then he called back, "Come on, you're next." The girl nodded and started crossing. But the horn sounded again closer. Then, the first hunter appeared on the other side. He was running straight for her. "Move!" Jake shouted. The hunter saw her and grinned, raising his spear. Jake didn't think. He pulled out his pulse weapon and aimed at the support rope, not at the hunter, but the bridge itself. "Sorry, kid," he whispered. "Trust me." Zap! The blast hit the rope. The bridge snapped. The girl screamed as it fell, but Jake had already tied the second rope around a high tree. The girl swung through the air, held by Jake's backup line, and landed hard into his arms. The hunter fell with the broken bridge, vanishing into the dark ravine. Jake held the girl tightly. "You okay?" She nodded, breathless. The mother wept with joy and hugged them both. But Jake didn't smile. "Others are still coming. We can't outrun them forever." He looked around and then he saw something, a rock wall nearby. Strange. Symbols glowing faintly in the stone. A hidden door. Jake stepped closer. The symbols reacted to his presence, pulsing blue. "What is this?" he muttered. The mother gasped. That's an old shelter. Ancient. Sealed long ago." Jake didn't wait. He placed his hand on the center symbol. The rock trembled. Secret door slid open with a loud hiss. Inside was darkness. Dust, silence. But also safety. "Go in," Jake ordered. "I'll seal it behind us." They stepped in quickly. Jake followed and slammed the door shut just as new hunters appeared. At the cliff edge, inside the shelter, Jake used his light to scan the walls. Strange tech. Shelves of dried herbs. Water stored in crystals. It was a survival bunker. "Looks like we're not dead yet," he said, finally smiling. But just as he sat down to rest, the mother placed a hand on his. "I owe you everything. My life, my daughter's life." Jake looked at her gently. "No, you gave me something too." "What's that?" she asked. He glanced at the girl, then back at her. "Something worth fighting for." Outside, the hunters screamed in frustration. Inside, hope was still alive. The storm outside had ended, but something new was beginning inside. The old alien shelter was quiet now. Dust still floated in the air. The glow from the wall symbols gave off a soft blue light. The small family, one human, one alien woman, one little girl, sat together in the warmth of a hidden room, built long before any of them were born. Jake stared into a small fire he had built from old wood. His clothes were torn, his arms covered in bruises, but his eyes were calm. The alien mother rested on a soft pile of cloth, her head in her daughter's lap. Her face was pale, but her breathing was strong. Alive, the child, finally safe, looked up at Jake with tired but hopeful eyes. "Are they gone?" she asked softly. Jake nodded. "For now. They lost our trail after the bridge. They won't find this place." The mother spoke, her voice a whisper. "You risked everything for strangers." "Why?" Jake looked at her, then at the girl. "You were never strangers," he said. "Not after I heard her cry." A moment of peacetime passed slowly. They shared dried food from the bunker. The girl laughed softly for the first time in days. The mother, now stronger, thanked Jake again and again in both her language and his. Jake finally allowed himself to rest. As he lay back, he looked at the cracked ceiling. "I came to this planet alone," he said. "I thought I wanted silence. Peace, no people, no war." The mother smiled weakly. "And what did you find?" Jake turned his head to her. "I found a reason to care again." The girl walked over to him with a piece of cloth and wrapped it around his injured arm. "Then don't leave," she said. Jake raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Stay with us," the girl said, her voice bold now. "You're strong. You're kind, your family." The mother didn't speak right away. Then slowly, she reached out and placed her hand on Jake's. "You saved my life, my daughter's life. We have no one left. No village. No home, but if you stay, we can build one together." Jake didn't answer at first. He stared at their hands joined together. He had been a soldier for most of his life. He had seen too many battles. He had saved many people, but he had never been saved by love before. "I never thought I'd find a home here," he said quietly, "but maybe I was never meant to find one. Maybe I was meant to build one, with you." Later that night, the girl was asleep, curled up near the fire. Jake and the mother sat together in silence. "I don't know your name," Jake said. She smiled softly. "My name is Alira. It means light after storm in my people's tongue." Jake smiled back. "It fits you." She looked into his eyes. "And you? Why did you come to this world?" Jake leaned back and whispered, "To disappear." "But you didn't disappear," she said, reaching for his hand again. "You were found." Jake closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with peace in his heart. "I guess I was." The final morning. When morning light entered the cracks in the bunker's stone walls, the storm had passed completely. The hunters were gone. Jake, Alira, and the little girl stepped outside into a new world. The air smelled fresh. Birds with glowing wings flew overhead. The trees shimmered with dew-dot together. They walked through the forest, no longer running, no longer afraid. They had no map, no plan, but they had each other. And sometimes, that's enough to start everything over. Asterisk. He heard a cry in the forest and followed it. But what he found was more than danger. He found family. He found a bond deeper than blood. And in saving them, they saved him too.